Part 9.
A phrase whose initials, DOGE, indicate the willingness in an inside joke manner to do only good every day.
Yeah, just like Google, don't be evil until China comes knocking with a certain amount of money. Here again, Jordan's affinity for a certain kind of humor, or at least these guys' humor, makes the practical reality of what they're talking about mute.
As well as signifying a bemused but knowing dog whose image has become a widespread meme. It has been my diligent and hopeful observation that Musk is a good man, or at least a terrible, complicated man, trying very hard to be good.
Here is where the moralizing, internal, my sensibility, my ego stuff really shines. Because if you're a psychologist, if you're a soft scientist, you're not making good and bad distinctions like that. You're saying things like this set of behaviors under these conditions are going to lead to this kind of outcome. It's not a moral prognosticating space unless you are adopting a sort of religious fervor on top of your analysis. So when I have clients, my clients have done all sorts of what might be considered bad shit, self-destructive, harmful to others, people they say they love and care about things. Not once do I go, you know, you're a bad person or you're a good person even, because that's not my place to make that statement. It's my job to say something like, are you getting the kind of outcome that you desire and demonstrating the kind of love and respect that you claim when you choke your wife? Now, hopefully you draw the right conclusion from that, but it's not because I've condemned you on top of it, much as my judgmental proclivities may move me there colloquially. So here Jordan saying, oh, well, I think he's a good person, or still incidentally a good person, or trying to be a good person. Like, it's nothing on top of the already inappropriate fawning, because you're not actually concerned with the practical reality. If you wanted to praise a certain way in which he structured a business, or change the cultural zeitgeist and the narrative about what's popular, great. That's all perfectly well and good. If you want to start going into, and you know, as a doctor, he's a good person, which is pretty much what you're trying to do, you're wrong and inappropriate.
Which is all we could truly hope if we were the least bit realistic about human nature and our own prospects. Could Musk do to the American deep state what
This concept of a deep state, as though government, I was a government employee. My salary was listed online. All of the rules I had to follow were a PDF you could download. This concept of a deep state is partly why he's probably friends with RFK, because you can get conspiratorial when you have no check on your power.
he did for Twitter? Could he prune and cut?
Did you hear that? He called it Twitter too.
So the Republic could revitalize? Stranger things have happened in the course of human history. Javier Milei is trying something similarly demanding in Argentina. And the US of A has a remarkable capacity to reinvent itself. Someone like Musk playing a key role in the governance of the greatest show on earth is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's an adventure by anyone's standards.
Yeah, because when you're a bored, rich person who has made a whole brand out of cycling between the same handful of quote-unquote intellectuals and having some version of the same conversation that serves you and your thirsty audience in the same way every week, then yeah, let's have excitement, because when the worst of that excitement happens, it won't affect you. You're not here, or you can buy your way on the first plane out of the fucking destruction.
I have met with the next member of this group in question, Mr. Robert F. Kennedy.
Again, this idea that because I met with them, I'm the authority, or I'm by default correct.
5 times.
5 whole times.
Speaking with and listening to him at some length each time. He has the near manic energy and loquaciousness of those with exceptional verbal intelligence.
It's just a redundancy. He's loquacious with as somebody with verbal like ah,
and the intensely focused concentration that pushes people who have
focused concentration as opposed to all the unfocused concentration out there. This is a rhetorical pattern. This is something else we should highlight. We should really think about for a second. When somebody is incapable of like just getting to the point and saying what the thing is or saying what the positive or negative thing is, they have to go and double down. That horrible, despicable, shit-eating piece of shit. Like it's the same emptiness that they're trying to infuse with better sounding or more damning, whatever direction they're trying to go, language that doesn't make the argument. It's still fundamentally incoherent.
Have that proclivity beyond even their own limits in pursuit of a goal. He's dreadfully well informed, a veritable master of historical minutiae in a manner nonetheless relevant to today's concerns.
Does anyone think any of that makes any sense? Go back, rewatch it 2 or 3 times. Ask yourself if you know what the fuck that meant.
He is also someone who, like Trump and Musk, can and does draw the overall picture accurately. And even
he draws the overall picture accurately, like with regard to vaccines.
In a somewhat prophetic manner, he is fearless and dedicated, having stood up and successfully against even the largest giants of the proto-fascist modern state.
And here's where words and their opposites start coming in 1984. The proto-fascist state. He stood up against the proto-fascist state, according to Peterson. He's not part of it. He's not willing to enable it. He's not endorsing it. No. He stood up to it. And whatever the proto-fascist state constitutes, surely someone who besmirched Jordan Peterson's name on Twitter.
And has single-handedly drawn public attention to what is genuinely a health crisis of gargantuan proportions.
Yeah, rotting animals on our roofs and in our garages.
Despite its invisibility on the political stage until the current time. He's also someone once bitten, twice shy, a seriously wounded apostate, again, like Trump.
A seriously wounded apostate. He is a public figure. He has something of a following. He's garnering attention. He's showing up on your platform. You do not get to be the victim and the one with all the microphones in front of. It just does not work. This dichotomy, this talking out of both sides of your mouth, where you were the so oppressed, the so aggrieved, the so censored, and yet, how much did your fancy suit cost? How many hours in the day do you have that you can just sit and listen to conspiratorial bullshit and spin it into something for your masses? The obscene, disgusting privilege of that and the way you exercise it should embarrass you.
Trump and Musk, as well as Tulsi Gabbard, from his own original favored party, the Democrats. When I first spoke with Mr. Kennedy on my YouTube channel, I asked him the same question I always ask the many Democrat leaders I have spoken with, most privately, unwilling as they generally are to risk being seen in public with the likes of me. The question, when do you think the left goes too far? His answer to that, in interview 1, at the very beginning of his presidential march?
I'm trying to run a campaign that brings people together rather than a campaign that tries, that is based upon, that kind of tribalism of condemning people for ideologies that I don't necessarily agree with.
So he doesn't answer the question, and you're getting ready to praise him. Somebody that wants to discuss honestly the excesses of the left will say things like, pretending there's more science on trans issues than there is. We'll say something like defunding the police was stupid. We'll say something like Black Lives Matter's leadership embezzling money wasn't great. Or stealing money, whatever the fuck they did with it that wasn't inappropriate. There are clear and obvious, reasonable things to say about the excesses of the left that are not, by definition, divisive just because you say, well, I'm trying to run a campaign that's X, Y, and Z.
I had my doubts about the suitability of that answer in the long run, having experienced precisely what happens when the left goes too far in my own private and personal life. Nonetheless, on that occasion, I let the question lie. I can tell you, however, that Mr. Kennedy had plenty to say on that topic when we spoke on YouTube on our second occasion. The erstwhile Democrat contender for president had, by that time, experienced running hard and headlong into precisely what I had intimated in the form of my initial and purposefully leading question. In consequence, Robert F. detailed for at least an hour his utter dismay with the power-mad, corrupt, ideologically possessed shenanigans of the progressive left.
So after it becomes wildly apparent that he's not going to have a prayer of being successful in his bid by whatever metric you want to deem that success, he's willing to commiserate with you in the space of heightened rhetoric and bitching and complaining about the excesses and detailing out what's wrong, because you need something to blame and you need something to feel is more responsible than your baseline batshittery apologetics.